1457 BC. The land of Egypt stands at the height of its power, but the northern territories are restless. In the fortified city of Megiddo, a coalition of rebellious Canaanite kings prepares to defy the pharaoh. What follows will become one of the first battles in recorded history. Led by a young but brilliant Pharaoh Thutmose III, the Egyptian army will march into danger, gamble everything on a daring maneuver, and secure a victory so great it will be carved in stone for eternity. Megiddo was no ordinary city. It was the key to controlling the ancient trade routes that connected Egypt to Mesopotamia and Anatolia. Whoever ruled Megiddo ruled the wealth of the region, but power brings rebellion. The king of Kadesh, joined by over 300 Canaanite princes, defied Egypt's authority and fortified themselves within Megiddo's massive walls. For Pharaoh Thutmose III, this was not just a political threat, it was a direct challenge to Egypt's supremacy. The pharaoh summoned his army, the largest Egypt had ever sent north, over 10,000 infantry, thousands of archers, and more than 1,000 war chariots, each a marvel of speed and precision. The march to Megiddo had begun. Thutmose faced a decision that would define the campaign. His generals advised two routes, both long and safe. But the pharaoh saw an opportunity. A third path, the Aruna Pass, cut directly through the mountains. It was narrow, dangerous, and perfect for an ambush. If the enemy blocked the pass, the Egyptian army would be trapped and destroyed, but if the enemy expected him to avoid it, the route could lead straight to Megiddo in a surprise attack. Thutmose chose the Aruna Pass. His gamble would either win the war or doom his army. The gamble worked. The Canaanite forces had expected the pharaoh to take the safer road. When Thutmose's army emerged from the pass, the enemy was caught completely off guard. The Egyptian army deployed at dawn. The pharaoh took the center, leading the elite chariot corps himself. On the flanks, infantry prepared to encircle the enemy. The Canaanites, still disorganized, rushed to meet the Egyptian assault. The Egyptians advanced with precision, the chariots cutting deep into enemy ranks while the infantry pressed the flanks. The Canaanite line began to waver, then panic set in. The coalition forces broke and fled, retreating toward Megiddo's gates. In the chaos, many soldiers were locked out of the city. Some were forced to climb over the walls to safety, leaving behind chariots, weapons, and supplies. Thutmose had won the field, but the enemy was still behind the walls. Rather than storm the heavily fortified city, Thutmose began a siege. For 7 months, the Egyptians surrounded Megiddo, cutting off all supplies. They built earthworks and defensive walls to ensure no one could escape or enter. The siege wore on. Hunger and desperation gripped the defenders. Finally, the city's leaders surrendered. The Canaanite princes were brought before Thutmose. In an act of political brilliance, the pharaoh spared them, taking their loyalty, hostages, and tribute instead of their lives. The victory at Megiddo was more than a battle. It was the foundation of Egyptian dominance in the Levant for the next century. The pharaoh returned to Thebes with vast tribute, new territories, and the loyalty of once rebellious kings. Thutmose III's triumph was recorded in exquisite detail on the walls of Karnak, the earliest fully documented battle in history. His gamble at the Aruna Pass became a lesson in boldness and strategy for millennia to come. The Battle of Megiddo was a turning point in ancient warfare. It proved that risk, strategy, and speed could overcome numbers and fortifications. Over 3,400 years later, the name Megiddo still echoes through history as the place where a young pharaoh secured his place among the greatest military leaders of the ancient world.